He never answered. Was not what they said.
I call this Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting Wednesday, March the 13th, 2024 to order at 6:39 p.m. First thing we're going to do is we're going to ask alternate Commissioner Neela to come and sit in Miss Commissioner 5's spot, and then Miss Commissioner O'Ryan to come sit in Commissioner 3's spot for us, please. All right. Calling to order that a quorum is present. Public comments, non-agenda item, public comments, white card comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda related topics for a length of time not to exceed 3 minutes per person. Agenda item, public comments yellow card. Comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda and public agenda items combined for the length of time not to exceed 5 minutes. Total per person on all items except for public hearings. Comments on public hearing items must be made when items come before the board, commission, or committee and not to exceed 2 minutes per person. Non-action or discussion may be taken by the board, commission, or committee during the public comments on non-agenda items. I have Mr. Robert Bataille.
Thank you, sir. My name's Robert Bataille. This is a photograph of 104 East Town Street. I actually wonder how many of you are aware of what that building looks like. I can bring this closer if you want me to. No, you're okay? This is a quintessential historic Texas prairie home mansion. We don't want this erased for townhomes. Now, you guys live in subdivisions. You don't have any history. You understand? Bell Farms, how's your history, Bell Farms? Just kidding. Manor has history going back hundreds of years. We don't want to lose a single shred of it. We have maybe 8 of these buildings. We don't need a townhome there. There's nothing historic about townhomes at all. Okay, now unless we protect this, we're going to be just an ordinary subdivision. Now you guys need to piggyback on Manor's history, but you got to keep it here. We don't want to use the phrase downtown. Let's start calling it Main Street, okay? It's a little tiny Main Street. And also the agenda item 8 at the end of Eggleston, we need to be careful. That's the homestead over there. Eggleston, we're going to start calling that Stagecoach Way. Get little signs on there. That was the stagecoach from Houston to Austin. James Manor's homestead at the end of there behind the Lions Club was the stagecoach station back in 1850. Now, the last meeting, I was a little flummoxed. It was kind of a workshop thing. I didn't see anyone have a piece of paper with a single thing written down on it. If Julie hadn't really winged it really well, it would have been very unproductive. We got some good comments from Scott. Did you guys go there after the fact and kind of distill that into some usable document for future planning and zoning commission people? That's what needs. We gotta perpetuate a legacy, okay? Now tonight you should be submitting budget items. You could submit budget items. I've been telling you guys this for like over 2 years. Dog runs, ping pong tables. We're going to have a couple of ping pong tables. But anyway, we got to get the planning thing going and get proactive. I think Scott should be out here. I think you guys should drive the bus. Scott kind of fills the tank and checks the oil. But you guys drive it, and you drive it in a proactive, forward-thinking way. All right, we're on a roll now. I guess that's good for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. All right, moving on to public hearing. Public hearing number 1, conduct a public hearing on a specific use permit for a medical office in Maynard Crossing, allowing 15,000 square feet of medical office and or medical clinic tenant space, 1 lot on 18.1 acres, more or less, and being located at the intersection of Shadow Glen Boulevard and US Highway 290, Maynard, Texas. We got Mr. Bataille.
Are you able to pull up the site plan there? Do you have the one with the parks? Actually, that's better. Or actually, no, this is a different one. Okay, this one. Thank you. Robert Bataille here. This area is 18.1 acres. Per our city codes, any commercial site that's over 10 acres is supposed to put in a plaza. That's in the codes 14.02.065G especially. Talking about outdoor areas and amenities in front and in between. And, these people don't pay into the parks fund, but they need to put a plaza in. So we should be having 3 or 4 plazas, and that's what makes a city great. This is right on 290. It'd be a beautiful little spot, correct, on 290? So we have to ask for these plazas or they will never put them in. Do you see a plaza on here? I don't either. They should be spending $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 to do something fantastic with a giant bell tower and an oil derrick and a bunch of Texas stuff, Let's become a city, shall we? It's easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. We got next, Mr. Morris. Do you wish to speak, Mr. Morris? Okay. All right. All right, Mr. Scott.
Sure. So we require specific use permits for medical office and medical clinic and spaces in our commercial zoning to help ensure that our commercial spaces don't be overwhelmed by those uses. Sort of the intention is for sales tax generating uses, and some of our shopping centers that were planned that way were filled up almost entirely by medical uses. So the city council and the planning commission had amended the zoning code a while back to require specific use permits for these. So there's sort of this level of review from you all in the city council to ensure that our shopping centers aren't, half medical uses that aren't generating sales tax that would have been anticipated. So that's just the purpose of, or the rationale for why this is before you all. This 15,000 represents about 10% of the shopping center, which is reasonable. The whole thing is about 150,000 square feet. You can see they provided this additional backup tonight for you all too, showing the other retailers that are planned to be there, in addition to some of the dentist office and professional medical offices that are there. But yes, they would be limited to 15,000 square feet. And, when you get to the action item, we are recommending approval. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Scott, I'm gonna ask you a crazy question. I'm excited to see this stuff, but I'm going to have to ask. I do love spending time with my family, but I do not like going into shopping centers because I don't like spending my money. But are there going to be places where people can just sit, if they're walking down, or just, have somewhere to sit, like a plaza or something like that?
Yeah, so those are reviewed on the site plan, and there's actually space in between 2 of the buildings. I just can't necessarily know where I'm parking, but there's an open space between some of the buildings that is planned to be programmed in that manner when they get to that site plan. So we don't have a regulation on how big those plaza spaces need to be, but there's a requirement when you have, I think it's 3 or more buildings now on one property, that they should be arranged in a way that creates a pedestrian environment area. And then our architectural standards have sort of building entrance requirements, sort of to have some amenities and some, maybe decorative paving and benches outside of buildings to create those spaces.
Is that in between the pet supply and the liquor store? Is that the
Yes.
spot?
Yeah.
Eek.
So that's not being considered tonight. You're looking at a specific use permit, so keep that in consideration.
Can we make conditional approval related to stuff like that in this? Since this is discretionary, are we allowed to provide conditions of that nature?
You can have conditions. They should be related and reasonable to the use that's requested. But yes.
I know they said that.
push it. Yeah, hold it.
Oh, I know they said that 10% of this plaza's the request is for medical use. What does that shake out to? Like I don't know the average size of like a dentist office or even the average size of some of these smaller venues. So, what in numerical value? Like, will there be 10 stores, and of those 10 stores, one of them be, or is it like 20 and two, or
I'll default to Lance if you can answer it. Yeah.
We just ask you state your name for us, please.
You bet. My name is Lance Morris, and I'm president of the Retail Connection that's building the shopping center. And by the way, Commissioner, I'm right there with you. I don't like to go shopping either with my wife and twin 17-year-old daughters, but I do. We're only really talking to one tenant right now that's of medical. It's Pacific Dental, and they want 3,200 feet, which would be 20% of the 15,000. We've had some interest in some ER tenants, emergency clinic, excuse me, and a chiropractor. But we really don't have anybody else that have made any overtures to us at this time.
So, Mr. Morris, this is so like the liquor store that's sitting there. That's we don't know if that's going to go there.
No, sir. In fact,
Okay.
that liquor store. This is a little bit older site plan. We're negotiating with Twin Liquors right now, and they would actually go next door to Pacific Dental in that little
Oh.
Omni building there that's in front of Planet Fitness, closer to right behind one of the pads right there. It's the bottom to the right.
Okay. Yeah, because I think correct me if I'm wrong, commissioners, but yeah, if we're gonna put a pad there where children may be, I don't know if we want it next to a liquor store.
Well, there you go.
That's exactly what I was saying. Yeah. And that is where you plan to put the plaza, right? Is
There is definitely a plaza going right there, a little grassy area. And there'll be some patios with hopefully a couple of different sit-down restaurants. So hopefully there'll be some places for the commissioner and I to hang out with our family shops.
and is there another one like near the James Avery Tropical Cafe? Is that another area where you're planning to put that?
There's a little triangle right there by one of those. Yes, a little bit farther up. That's going to be a
See it.
patio.
I see it. I see
And
it.
there's going to be hopefully another sit-down restaurant. We don't have Five Guys, even though it's marked on there. So we're hoping for another patio right there. Yes.
I don't know if I could go back to the earlier question. I know you said there was only one on the table, but technically this is 15,000 square feet. So I don't know how much square footage is really allotted per site, or how many businesses do you plan to have in this entire establishment? And then if it's one or
So,
we do-
so for instance, the Pacific Dental is 3,200 feet. We have a chiropractor that wants 1,200 feet. So there's kind of a variety of sizes, anywhere from 1,200 to maybe 3,000. So in 15, I don't think we'd have any more than 4, maybe 5,
and how many businesses in total?
4 or 5 possibly.
I guess that would mean 40 businesses would fit
No.
in the entire plaza.
Oh, we're not just talking medical now. We're talking the whole
I-
shopping
I'm,
center.
I'm talking about percentage wise. If 10% is going towards medical businesses, so how many? But number wise,
Would be in that 10%.
so 40 businesses in the entire site.
In the entire shopping center, I don't think quite 40, maybe just off the top of my head, 20. And then out of that 20, maybe 3 to 4 might be medical. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to follow your question there. Any other questions?
Mr. Morris, so if I understand right, you don't have specific businesses, medical use businesses lined up, but you want to be able to market those. And then if those don't go through, then you'll market to more retail businesses to fill the spots.
I have to tell you, our preference is to have retailers in there. But just the overall complexion of a shopping center, you want to have the flexibility. And quite frankly, people like to take their child to have their teeth worked on, and they go have lunch or whatever, or do a little shopping, or this, that, and the other. So it just adds to the health of the shopping center to have lots of different uses.
It's nice to mess up the dental work with ice cream right
There
after.
you go. There you go. Plus, they're generally not open on Saturday and Sunday, so it helps the restaurants to have extra parking and this, that, and the other. So.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So I see that you are planning to also have a pond on the property
The
as
pond
well?
is already in place. Yes.
Okay. And will it have like a trail around it or benches or like a fountain or, any kind of features in the pond?
So that's the original developer that put all the infrastructure in, and that's not under our purview. So I'm probably not the right person to ask. I'm just building the shopping center right here. That's actually, I just drove through it today. Those ponds are in, everything. Of course, they're not functional yet because there's nothing there, but there may or may not be. I'm just not the right one to answer that. I'm sorry.
Okay. And then when you drove by today, did it have like a walkable area around it
I
or
didn't go specifically and look. I just kind of drove those roads a minute and turned around and came to this meeting.
do you know like if it has walkable area or some kind of, because I know there's trails, I mean, not that far from there. Are
No,
people going to be able to walk to this and also walk around it if they want to walk around the pond or do something?
no, not the detention pond. I mean, it's not one that's going to hold water. It's just going to be behind the building. They have to, the developer, or maybe them on the site plan, will have to screen it actually, like with landscaping, up against the major drive aisles and areas there. But there will be sidewalks, on 290. There's sidewalks on Manor Crossing. There's the walkway there on those types of roads. But this, as a commercial shopping center, doesn't have any, parkland that's required to be part of it. And so there aren't trails.
But then
I
the
could speak-
apartments are still going behind it.
So behind that behind that detention pond is the like the golf course and the medical tower. This developer, as part of their 380, is putting in escrow some money to actually build a sidewalk bridge or partially fund a sidewalk bridge to connect over to the medical tower. And then they're also going to be constructing the sidewalk from the K8 campus up to Shadow Glen Boulevard. Shadow Glen Trace. So they're going to kind of extend some of the external sidewalks to connect down into it.
And are they still planning to have the apartments? I know when we approved it, we did it was retail plus like 400 apartments. Are they still planning to do that?
They're under construction.
Yes, and at 600 apartments, 300 under construction now under phase 1.
And do you know the like average medium price per unit of those
I
apartments?
don't have anything to do with apartments. I'm sorry.
Since it seems like it's from what I hear from him, it is consensus that they would prefer retailers. Are we able to conditionally or put a contingency on maybe 5% of the space being used for medical purposes versus the 10% that's on the table?
Yes, yeah, you can reduce it if you think 15,000 is too much, and that recommendation would be forwarded to the city council.
I also have a question. I agree with Commissioner here, but some of these plots that you still have open, I know we have a lot of people here in our hometown that are trying to start their businesses. Are we leaving any of these spots open for hometown business people to be able to come in and have a shop to start their businesses, or are these pretty much you already have?
I'm open to any suggestions. My phone number's right on there. I'd love to talk to them.
So if I want to move with the recommendation, I move to recommend that we can.
So this is a public hearing,
Yeah.
so on the action item, yes.
All right, Commissioners, we have any more questions for Mr. Morris?
Thanks to everyone.
Do I have a motion to close public hearing number 1.
I move to close the public hearing for agenda item number 1.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard, a second by Commissioner Terry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Public hearing number 2, conduct a public hearing on a planned unit development amendment for the New Haven subdivision being located at the corner of Greg Lane and FM 973 Maynard, Texas. I do have Mr. Bataille.
Thank you. My name's Robert Bataille. This New Haven has some good things going for it. The main problem they have is that there's only 4.5 acres of parks, and they kind of want to put open space and parks together and call it, 10.2 acres. So my first question would be, actually not a question, a statement. Open space does not equal parkland. I'm using parkland, the single word parkland, as in what normal people call a park. For those new people, parkland is 2 words. That's a whole separate thing. Okay, so my first thing, let me go on here. We've been looking at this virtually the same for over a year. They're still saying 10 to 20 parking places. I say, why don't we close that door and say, okay, it's 20. And we want 8 by the little dinky place postage stamp, and then 12 or 13 by the bigger postage stamp. Okay. Ping pong's nice in there. This is one of your guys' great achievements, was getting that second ping pong table. I'll never forget you for that. I'm not kidding. I mean it. Can we get some lights there so people can play at dusk, till 8 o'clock or so on a few nights? We don't want to drive the neighbors nuts, ping pong, back and forth. Also, I love that phrase, active park. I guess that's where you do cartwheels and 3-legged races. That's an active park. How about, like soccer, kids' soccer field or something? Pickleball would be fun, but maybe too close to the neighbors for noise. How about some water fountains? The restroom would be cool. I'd also like to recommend the city down there at the south end, that storage tank. I think we need some parking, that the city should put maybe 20 places there. It's no good having these cool trails if no one can park to go to them. And I guess the main thing too is they need to pay $144,000, $100 into the park funds, because they don't have a park there. And I might be off slightly. At one point it was $550 per unit. They've got 262. That's $144,100. I don't see anything about that payment being made. Volleyball is good, but again, we need some lights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. Commissioners, we also have Brad here for the development. He's here for any questions. Is that right? Okay. All right, Mr. Scott.
Sure. So this original PUD was approved a little less than a year ago in April of 2023. So at the time, it was approved with 271 residential lots, so 190 50-foot wide 50-foot wide ones, and 81 60-foot wide lots. This revised PUD, it reduces it to 262 residential lots. There's 175 50-foot wide ones and 87 60-foot residential lots. There's still one commercial lot, one public utility lot, which is where the city wants to do some ground storage water tanks and a booster pump. And then they increase the amount of park space and open space, because they are 2 different things, by I think it's 4.7 acres. Yes. But none of the amenities have changed from the original approval. So it's still the same, parking, shade structures, playgrounds, benches, trash receptacles. The main purpose for the request is just with the topography over there. I think they had been planning a bunch of like retaining walls and all that. And with this land plan, there's less of that. So it's a little more cost effective for them, but it also, you know, is something of a benefit in that it's fewer residential lots, more of that park space and open space, and those park and open spaces are a little bit more visible now from the street. Because if you look at their prior land plan, a lot of it was behind houses, and on the proposed land plan, a lot of it's more open now. They've kind of moved it back away from the creek. So once we get to the action item, we are recommending approval. Yes, if you have any questions, you could answer those.
So now that we're opening that stuff back up, does that mean we can get more parking spaces for that park?
So you can request, yes, you can modify provisions of the PUD since it is being reconsidered. But I would keep in mind that they do have their original entitlement. And so at any point, I mean, they can, you know, if they don't necessarily agree with the recommendations, and if the council ends up approving it, they could always pull it by second reading, and then we have the original land plan that was already approved last year. So it just has a consideration.
I know that during our workshop, we had said that we wanted to make recommendations that parks and open spaces not be buried in the back of developments, just due to like more potential for crime, more, you know, if something happens back there, harder for, you know, more time for a police or whatever to get back there. I see that there is a nature preserve kind of buried in the back of this one. It's not a park, but it's kind of against what we had discussed. Although maybe this one is grandfathered in. I'm not exactly sure how that works.
Yes, I mean, this one probably predates our modifications to our parkland requirements. But that nature preserve, just make sure you're looking at the right one, because they did remove some of the houses, so it's actually more open to the street now.
Is there a street on the backside of the community? Or is it just like there's really only one main street to get in? And one, like, what's the main way to get in and out of the
Yeah, so there's the main proposed collector, which you can see the orange dots extend to the north. That road's going to be constructed by Mustang Valley, which is a subdivision north of the senior high school, and that connects to the existing Anderson, which connects to Schmidt Lane. And then Monarch Ranch continues it to the south, and then it goes through Okra, and then it actually connects into Shadow Glen. So that road would serve as another north-south that parallels 973. So that's their main entrance, and then they have another sort of standard, 50-foot wide right-of-way entrance on Greg Lane. So both of their access on this plan is from Greg Lane, but in the near future, when Mustang Valley constructs that extension, it'll actually connect a little further up through their subdivision into Schmidt Lane.
Is the nature preserve going to have anything on it, or is it just going to be like, what is the nature preserve going to be?
So that's just undeveloped. It's floodplain. So they're putting concrete trails through it, 8-foot and 6-foot concrete trails, and they should have benches along that. I'm not sure if the trash receptacles are there because it's the floodplain. We can bolt those down or not, but there's a trail that loops through that area, and that is actually a regional trail on the Wilbarger Creek that, again, Monarch Ranch will be constructing a portion of that south of Greg Lane. Okra constructs it, and then it connects into the trail system in Shadow Glen.
I know we have other parks that are not lit at night so that, people don't go and hang out at parks at night. Is this going to be the same? Like, is that a citywide thing that we don't have lights at night?
That is a continuing discussion of the Parks Committee. So they've actually approved, the Parks Committee recommended and the City Council approved putting lights over at Timmerman. And they are looking at, updating all the park rules because there's a lot of conflict in our ordinance about whether it's dawn to dusk or 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. or something like that. And so they are looking to sort of clarify all that and then, have a plan. So, if you wanted to recommend lighting on some of these parks, you certainly can do that.
Yeah, I think so. And the trail too, because if people are going to be walking or, at night or because it's so far back in the subdivision, like the nature preserve and the trails.
One thing with the regional trail portion of it, it is in a floodplain. So electric may be challenging in some of those areas. And then it may not be, impossible, but it's more of a challenging consideration when you make a recommendation.
And this one is discretionary, correct?
Correct, yes. But they still have their original approval from 23.
So is there parking along the road east of the natural preserve?
Yeah, I mean, there's no prohibition on street parking. There aren't dedicated parking spaces. So that's another thing. If you wanted to see, a bump out, a parallel parking spaces 8 by 25. Okra is planning that. That was one of their things that they have is, some on-street parking that's specifically like the road gets a little wider, so you're not necessarily narrowing drive lanes adjacent to their park spaces that are within the subdivision.
In Shadow Glen, while it's legal to park on the streets, the HOA does fine the residents for parking on the street. So is there an HOA for this, and would they be able to do the same thing?
Yes, and potentially. We're the city, we don't review or require HOA documents. There is an HOA, I guess, in the sense of I think there's the park maintenance. These open space maintenance is on the HOA, so I think we sort of dictated that a HOA would be required to maintain these spaces. But how the HOA regulates themselves is not something the city gets involved in.
Will the developer be kind of sitting on the HOA at first for a period of time, and how long will that be? Because I know other developments have had issues with that.
Just state your name before.
Yeah, Brad Carvajal with Quinn Engineering representing the developer. He is the head of the HOA right now. In terms of how long he intends to stay on there, I'm not 100% sure, but I would imagine it's definitely not a long-term goal for him to stay on that HOA for an extended period of time.
And we don't have any purview to say, like, you can only have the developer on for this long. Because I know my community paid like a lot of money in lawyer fees to get our developer off because he was just hamstringing everything that we were trying to do.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any, ways the cities would get involved with that transaction. I mean, typically, once the neighborhood is built out to a certain percentage, the residents are able to take it over. But apparently, it's not as easy as that. But I'm not well versed on that, to be honest. And but the city in the past has not, again, gotten involved in how HOAs regulate their communities.
Could we stipulate that that roadway have designated parking spaces so that the HOA issue is not a problem?
Yes, yeah, you can make that recommendation.
Can I ask, what power does the city have if the trail is not upkept and regulated?
So that we do have the ability. So these spaces, they're typically actually dedicated to the city and then HOA maintained. And so we are able to, have them maintained in a better way. So decent example, I mean, it's getting worked out still, but over there in Carillon, in phase 1, they put in like a decomposed granite trail, and then the HOA didn't really maintain it. And so we've been working with the developer, and they're going to actually turn it all into concrete and redo the whole thing, and make sure that the HOA kind of stays on it, because we were, not pleased with actually how it was being maintained. And so in that regard, we do kind of get, on the HOAs for, not maintaining what they're required to. So we do have some leverage there.
Do you know what the average price per unit is going to be for these houses?
I do not know that off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
All right, commissioners, do we have any other questions?
I would just say you need to know that, like, if you're representing the developer.
Well, we're just getting it pad ready, and so the builders are actually be the ones building the homes. So we're just, yeah.
I know.
All right, commissioners, any more questions? All right, do I have a motion to close public hearing number 2?
I move to close public hearing number 2.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Moran, second by Commissioner Meyer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to public hearing, agenda item number 3, conduct a public hearing on a subdivision short form final flat for the City and Refuge Church of God in Christ, located on 4 lot on 1 acre, more or less, and being located at 1311 Old Highway 20, Maynard, Texas. Mr. Bataille.
Thank you. My name's Robert Bataille. I mostly wanted to say, hey, welcome to the neighborhood, man. Good to have you over there. I live in Old Manor over here. Excuse me for talking to them directly, and I also wanted to mention that just to the north of there is actually a bunch of City of Manor owned land that's a park. It's part of Carriage Hills, and we want to turn that into a park that does some stuff. And yes, we want to have some lights there so people can play in the early evening. No biggie. I'm not afraid of people hanging out together and having fun. That's what we're supposed to do as a city. Manor kind of has forgotten that for about 60 years. I want to put a 7-base baseball diamond there with a short infield fence, and just a little north of that, I want to have radio-controlled cars driving on a little racetrack that looks like the City of Manor roads there. So that's what I want a little north of there, just letting you know. So anyway, welcome, and it's good to have folks in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. Next, we have Miss Elizabeth.
My name is Elizabeth, owner of Lot 3, Block K in Belforms. I'm here today in opposition to this development, City of Church of God in Christ, located within 300 feet. It's actually probably less than that, but when I purchased my property, I was not made aware that church could be built so close. A matter of fact, I and 4 other neighbors, which are present, and one who sent an objection via email to mburrow@maynardtexas.com as well. Developing this property now could go against what the understanding and reasonable expectations I had at the time of purchase of my house. Having a church building and associated activities so near to my home would negatively impact my privacy, my safety, and the enjoyment of my property, and the safety of my children. Large gatherings and increased traffic could cause disturbances. The road is already loud enough without a church. Safety could become an issue with more traffic in such a small area. Traffic is also already an issue in that road. Reckless drivers on that street are already an issue. With increased congestion so close to their homes, deserves careful consideration. That's all I had to say today. And I just want to make sure that you guys received that email from my neighbor as well, who could not be present. The email was sent to Maynard Texas or MaynardTX.com. Her name is Gianna Fedeli.
Thank you. Next up, I got Mr. Justin.
I'm Justin Bond. Wow, that's fun. Okay. A little about me. I moved every year of my life. My parents were military brats. So I was there for Johnson City being built up. I was there for Fredericksburg, Blanco, Marble Falls. I could keep going. Okay. I was in the military also. You know, lots of plans. What am I trying to say? I work in development right now. That's why I kept my work shirt on today. Alamo Glass, right? I go to projects every single day. I don't know yet. Have any of you seen this lot that's being proposed right now? You have. Most of the board? Okay, cool. We could play a game of soccer on it. Like, I don't know. I'm going to dig in, right? But there's a violation here. Like, there's no way you could put a building on that strip, that small, and I dragged them here today. Like, okay, I'm emailing people. I run a couple businesses and work at another and have 2 kids. I'm sure all of you can respect that, right? But most of all, I'm just a military grunt, man. And then on top of that, I'm like working in construction. Like, I know insane when I see it, okay? So noise pollution, the construction pollution, the event that was held there the day that they came walking by in the neighborhood, and I keep on my door because I'm a classic, I don't know, country, no soliciting, right? Hey, we're putting a church right behind you and we're going to be having an event. Why don't you come on by? No, thank you. I would not like a church right behind my house. Have you seen the road it's on too? I know I got 5 minutes and I can talk pretty quick, all right? I'm going to jump around. That road is insanely dangerous the way it is. I got hit and run on it. The first day I moved into that neighborhood, a white van came sliding like a movie because I'm the second or third house, and a dude jumped out and cops came running. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is, it has no outlet out there. That's how I caught the kid in the hit and run. And then they just added the one for Walmart. So development is slow in growing small towns. I know, because I'm from all of them, okay? I understand religion, worship. I risked my life for this country, okay? Wearing a cross the whole time. It's absurd. It's absurd, and I feel greed. That's what I feel from it. It's greed. I get it's religion, right? But at the same time, it's like a time and a place. And if you drive, since you all know where this location is, a block mind you, going 60 miles an hour. I don't even know. I don't even check. My
Your
mom's
time's up,
house.
Mr. Bond.
Okay. Sorry. Frustrating. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, we just wanted to let you know Mr. Mark Sanchez and Ms. April Flores are here to support this for the opposition of, as Mr. Bond and Miss Elizabeth just spoke about.
May I say something, sir? I know I checked, I would, just real.
I'm not supposed to let you, but you got 2 minutes.
My name is Mark Sanchez. I live at 12613 Casting Drive. And I just want to put out there that I was told by Pacesetter Homes that nobody was going to build back there. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I bought that house, was because I had nobody behind us. It was just a field. And I just wanted to just put it out there that multiple neighbors were also told the exact same thing, that there was no building that was going to be behind us. There's power lines that were a violation and they couldn't build. That's what we were told. And I just wanted to put that out there, that that's the reason why I'm here, is because I was told that no buildings would be back there. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. All right, Mr. Scott.
Sure. So this is a one lot subdivision over there on Old 20. They do have a right of way dedication that's on the front of it for the counties whenever their future expansion of Old 20 occurs. The plat, it is approved by our engineer, so when you get to the action item for it, it is non-discretionary. And then for the use of the property, by federal law, we can't restrict where religious assembly goes. So religious assembly is permitted in every zoning district. So we do control, the impervious cover and the setbacks and the building standards. So it is a very narrow lot. So it does add a lot of challenges to developing the property. But if they can make it feasible, then it can happen. So in consideration for just this subdivision, just platting this one property, again, it has been approved. So when we get to the action, we're recommending approval.
So what we're saying is this is one of these that we have to approve it because it meets all of the city of Maynard stuff.
That's correct. Yeah.
All right, before you guys leave, I just want to say something to you guys. Unfortunately, as a commission, we cannot speak on or do anything. Our hands are tied. Scott, hold on. There is a city council meeting next Wednesday. Is that correct?
Yeah, this plat doesn't go to council, so it wouldn't be on their agenda, but.
So what we're saying is we have no.
However, we can approve with conditions. So you might want to stick around just to see.
So with this, Scott, I guess questions like this. So we can't approve nothing like this, and it doesn't go to city council. So our hands are tied, basically. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Once it meets city code, by code, they're obligated to approve it.
What kind of conditions could you even put on something like this?
This particular one doesn't. I mean, conditions on a plat are pretty narrow because it has to be related to the plat. So you couldn't really regulate the use. You couldn't put on the plat that they couldn't, have a church or couldn't develop the property or, couldn't do anything like that.
What about parking and stuff like that?
No, that's not a subdivision plat related. That's an administrative site development.
Is there a developer here?
There are representatives from the church. I don't know if they're development side, but.
So, so we may not be able to.
This actually is just to approve a plat, not for what it's going to be used for, correct?
That's correct, yes.
So by approving the plat, we're not approving the use or what it's going to be used for.
Correct, yeah. So, not the specific use of the property. We do require a property to be platted or to be a legal lot at least, in order for us to issue site development permits. So this is one step in their process for developing the property. But again, the plat doesn't necessarily relate to the use of what it's going to be. It's just creating the legal boundaries of the lot.
I have a question for the developer or the owners. Will you guys hold services during the week? Because I know, like, I actually live in this neighborhood, and we do have traffic challenges.
Shall we approach the? Yes, sir. You just come up and state your name.
First of all, my name is Dr. Ricky Allen, and I'm the pastor of the church that's in question on this evening. First of all, I want to just address a few things here before I get to your question. Is that okay, ma'am? Is that all right? No? Yes or no? You didn't say the question first?
I mean, I had a question about
Okay.
when your services
Okay,
are
okay,
gonna be
sure. Sure, we're planning having services at least right now, and especially since COVID has hit and COVID is still around, we are looking at having service at least twice a week there, on Sundays and possibly on Wednesdays.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Minister Gerald Jackson. Our service starts. Bible study starts at 9:45. Sunday morning, yeah, got it. And service starts at 11 o'clock and is over about 1:30, 1 o'clock. Wednesday night is Bible study. There's no noise. It's from 7 o'clock until about 8:30, and that's it. I respect, their views, but it's not a safety issue.
Mr. Bond, you can't speak. Sorry, sir.
How many members do you guys have? Like, how big is your church approximately?
Approximately right now, we only have about anywhere from 20 to 25 members right now. Excuse my tightness of my voice. I just had some shots in my voice and my jaw and stuff like that because I have a speed. We now have anywhere from 20 to 25 members with anticipation of growing. You see some of the power lines. Those power lines will be moved. They will be moved. The question, my concern is that, and I heard other people addressing things, their safety and things. I believe that if we have another church there, it will keep your houses from being broken in. It will take people out of the drug traffic down. No. I'm talking right now.
You got to address the board. You can't address back there.
So that's the thing. What disturbs me is that how one can get so antiquated or so anti-church. Okay. Well, you know what?
All right.
I'm going to say this. And I'm going to take my seat. Is that we're in the process here to help build Manor, to make Manor better. You have your houses. You building your houses. We don't stop beer joints going up. We don't stop restaurants going up. But time of church, time you say mention of church going up, we have all kind of hell that breaks loose. That's what I'm gonna say for right now.
Y'all speak out one more. All right. All right. Do I have a motion to close agenda item number 3? Or do we have any more questions?
I move to close agenda item number 3.
I'll second.
I have a motion to close. I have a motion by Commissioner Terry, a second by Commissioner Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, guys. We're gonna take a 5-minute recess. We will resume at 7:40. Consent agenda, all of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the Planning and Zoning Commission and enhanced on one motion. There will be separate discussions of these items unless requested by a chairperson or commission member, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered for separately. Consent agenda item number 4, consider discussion and possible action on to approve the P&Z Commission minutes for February 13th, 2024 P&Z Commission workshop session and February 13th, 2024 P&Z Commission call special session.
I move that we pass the minutes.
I have a quick question.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
I do wonder if there's a way to get like next steps from the session to kind of say, I know it's a good summary of what we talked about. Is there a way to put like, we agreed this, we're going to do that, check into this, like a checklist?
Yeah. I didn't have time to do it for this meeting, but yeah, so I have all the notes I took from that workshop still on my desk, so I do have the actions.
And I know we have one coming up too, so maybe we can revisit some of those things in that workshop, or I know it's a joint one, so maybe we don't talk about that there. Or what's the next best time for us to bring this up again?
Yeah, we can discuss that. We can figure that out if it's another workshop we do, or if I don't want to get too far off topic, but that April 6th workshop, which thank you for bringing that up as a reminder, that joint workshop with City Council, I think, and this isn't set yet, but I think we're planning to have the consultant who's doing our downtown strategic plan come in to work with you all on kind of where that's going, what that's looking like, and the participation there. Don't hold me to that, but that's something we're considering as the topic for that one. But yes, so I can work on some next steps and see if we need another workshop or if we can do it during a regular meeting. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Michael, we do have on the Planning and Zoning Commission call special session minutes. We have Ms. Gabriella Commissioner is absent, but that was Mr. Neela that was absent. All right, do I got a motion for consent agenda item number 4?
I'd like to move that we approve the minutes or item for the called special session with the corrections to Mr. Neela actually being absent and Mr. Ryan being present.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Myers. I have a second by Commissioner Chavis. All in favor?
Aye.
Regular agenda item, consideration and discussion and possible action on specific use permit for medical office in Maynard Crossing, allowing 15,000 square feet of medical office and or medical clinic tenant space. 1 lot on 18.1 acres, more or less, and being located at the intersection of Shadowglen Boulevard and US Highway 290, Maynard, Texas.
This is a discussion item from earlier, right?
Yes, yeah. We had the public hearing on this with the representative from Retail Connections who was here, who spoke about some of their planned uses in there. Yeah.
Are we able to lower the square footage to 10,000 square feet to
Yes.
allow more retail space?
Yes, you can move that number any way you want.
Okay. I don't know. Is there? Can I move to approve with the contingency that the space gets reduced to 10,000 square feet? Yes.
1 second. Does any commissioners, anybody else have any questions? All right. I have a motion from Commissioner Orion for approving it with the consideration of 10,000 square feet.
I second.
I have a second by Commissioner Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 6, consider discussion and possible action on a planned unit development amended for the New Haven subdivision being located at the corner of Great Lane and FM 973, Maynard, Texas.
Sure. So this is the subdivision that the zoning was previously approved back in April of 2023, and so they're modifying it by reducing some of the single family lots, increasing that park space and open space. The amenities in the parks didn't change. The parks they still don't meet the requirements for our code, which is why they're still required the same parkland fee in lieu. Even though those spaces are there, they're still going to be paying into the city's park fund. And then the street layout was modified a little bit again because of the topography over there. Is there any other questions? Can I answer those?
Does the park in lieu fees include a development for that particular space too, or is it just the calculation as divided by the number of lots?
So it's under the old fee, which is $550 per dwelling unit, through their PID, their public improvement district that they have. That's funding all of the park amenities. So what they're including in there is what's on their PID, or mostly funding their park amenities. They're still like service and assessment plans and other things related to their PID that get worked out with the city council. But the city council did form a PID to pay for some of their enhancements to those park spaces. But additionally, the PUD and their development agreement, because it's in there as well, they pay the $550 per dwelling unit into the city's park fund.
Okay. I guess another conversation we can look at that calculation to ensure that it's not just the base fee that was kind of developed years ago, but something that is relooked after, and also ensures that the city also captured the development of whatever that land is, right? Because the 550 wouldn't just equate to a 1-for-1 swap on that, right?
Yeah, and so that's why on the new park fees and the new parkland section of our ordinance that was approved a couple months back, the fee was increased from $550 per dwelling unit to $50,000 per acre that wasn't provided. And then we also established a park development fund, which is $700 per dwelling unit. And so there's two fees now. One goes to pay for the acquisition of land, and the other goes to pay for the improvements on that land. And so that's the current structure we have now. And then that fee is looked at yearly or more frequently, because that 550 lived forever, and needed updating. So.
And so that part now being imposed on future developments.
Yes, developments that are subject to that regulation that aren't vested under the older codes. So I did look into this one. This one, it is, predates that subdivision, but then also the development agreement has the 550 per dwelling unit. So there's sort of additional things. So, changing that rate on this PUD, there's still additional agreements that it would be in conflict with. So.
Okay. All right. Thanks. And then for consideration to have those parking spaces, the parallel parking spaces along the roads that are adjacent to the nature preserve. It looks like they have a park indent out near Park B. Is that a parking lot? That inlet part?
Yes, that like kind of white rectangular area, that is their parking lot.
Yes, okay. And then along the trail continues south west. There's another kind of roadway there to include the parallel parking spaces. And I'm trying to look at how we accommodate on Park A to ensure that we have those parking spaces. But I do think that somehow our city regulations need to be looked at in order so that there isn't a conflict in HOAs on these roadways. And I know it may be something different from public roadways that we're not maintaining as the city versus the private roadways where they can kind of control those time frames or restrictions. But if we have in parks, we need to be allowed to park to get there accessibly and not have any constraints as other HOAs or subdivisions may currently have. So on the docket, we need to include that to take a look at how we can work together to get that accomplished.
Definitely. Would you like? You have to decide now. Of course, you can always see me. Because I could bring the park ordinance, the kind of newer one we did more recently that the city council approved, to your next planning commission meeting, or do you want to try to work that into the workshop on April 6th? Or some other future time, or totally separate, or again, no.
Yeah. So the workshop is before our meeting.
Yeah, I would agree. The more stuff we can find out, the faster we can find it out. That way, it helps us with our further meetings. So maybe the workshop.
10-4.
I also had a question. Sorry, did you want to go? Okay. Since the new road is going to be going out through the other. You mentioned Monarch Ranch and what was the other one? Okra. I predict that people will use that as a bypass of 973. In a similar way, people use Ring Drive as a bypass to 20. And that will probably lead to people speeding down this new road. And, there are homes facing the road, I'm assuming is what it looks like to me. Can we request that there be speed bumps put in this road to help to curb speeding along this residential road?
So the road is unloaded, which means there aren't driveways. So those are the back of people's houses, and there's going to be 6-foot masonry walls with landscaping between the right of way and those fences.
And will that be in Monarch and Okra? It'll be that way the whole way?
Yeah, we kept it consistent. So Mustang Valley, New Haven, Okra, Monarch, all have very similar. No, it's all unloaded. We actually, I don't know if you recall, because it was a while ago, we requested, and Monarch thankfully agreed to revise their PUD because Monarch was approved before our current thoroughfare plan, and when the thoroughfare plan was approved in the comp plan in 2022, this road is one of the ones that was added. And so we went to Monarch and said, hey, you're planning to put, I think it was like 8 houses on that road. Can you shift those to a different area, take them off this, so this full extent of the road doesn't have houses on it? And they did. They revised their land plan to that effect. And then for the question on speed bumps, it's challenging. We don't have a policy right now on traffic mitigations. Of course, we have the ones in Shadow Glen, which are getting redone when that street is repaved here in a couple months. And one of the things that's on our agenda within the Development Services Department is actually evaluating all of the parking codes in the city and having a policy for how traffic mitigations are installed, whether they're citizen initiated or city initiated. And so that's actually a great topic, maybe for not maybe the next joint P&Z City Council workshop, but maybe one after that or sometime this year. But it is on our radar that we need to have a plan for parking in the city, just as a whole, like on-site parking, off-site parking, street parking, traffic mitigation, everything.
I think that's great. And like the sooner the better on that one, because it is the number one thing that people is challenged. And I live on a road where people speed through there and it's very unsafe.
Yep. On this road in Okra, because the trail, one of their main internal trails crosses this road. And so one of their requests, maybe it was from you or just us, was that they had to have a flashing beacon, like a signalized flashing beacon. So if anyone crosses, they can activate it to help make it a safer crossing, because it is a main road.
Okay.
Is this also connected to the Maynard Senior High School? In the back of it.
The road will go through. So the high school is platted the right of way there for that road. They don't have plans right now to connect to it, so their sports fields are there. So that's why you see the road kind of, maybe on the old version is a little straighter, and on the new version has more of a curve. That relates to the adjacent property owners, us working with them, and then the school and the fields that they put in. I believe the school probably will come and make a connection to that road, just to help with access to their property.
Well, and I'm also looking at if students are there. Like Commissioner Leonard is saying, we have high school students driving and students walking. We don't want them to meet each other. So maybe can we ask that they put those beacons in there?
So I guess there's one intersection on it within their subdivision, but I don't know if they have crosswalks necessarily at that. That's planned. It probably might, but yeah, we can make the request they have there for that one intersection. That's in the mid block there.
And then the lighting and stuff, that is not going to be a condition that we need to add, because that'll be handled through the Parks Committee. Is that right?
If it goes through the Parks Committee, that would be city funded, like the ones that Timmerman were or will be. So if like Park B, if you wanted lighting around the pavilion, the only one that I cautioned was just that regional type trail, because that's down towards the floodplain and maybe a little challenging to install the electrical for that. But there are, non-floodplain areas within their Park A and Park B.
I just wanted to clarify on the parking in Shadow Glen that the residents are allowed 4 hours, but there's nothing on the streets that tell you that you're limited to 4 hours of parking. So having designated parallel parking would eliminate that issue.
Yeah, that's an excellent point there. Yeah.
All right, commissioners, any more questions? Do I have a motion?
So I'll make a motion that we approve with the conditions of um, parallel parking, right away. What is it called? I don't want to screw it up. Right away designated parallel parking spots. Is that for all three parks, or is that just for the nature preserve where we?
Commissioner Chavis had said adjacent to the nature reserve and the trail.
Yeah. So how many? Do we have to designate how many?
So there are measurements on this, but by city code, a parallel parking space is 8 by 25. So however many that.
However many. Okay. So I move that we approve with the conditions of the maximum allotted designated parallel parking spots in the nature preserve, and that we request, and the trail, and that we request some safety measures to be implemented at the intersection on the main road.
I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Commissioner Myers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. Agenda item number 7. Consideration and discussion and possible action on a subdivision short form final plat for the City of Refuge Church of God in Christ, located 1 for lot on 1 acre more or less, and being located at 13114 Old Highway 20, Maynard, Texas.
Sure. So this is that one lot. It has been approved by our engineers, so we're recommending approval. It is as a plat, a non-discretionary item, and then, as we mentioned earlier, the churches are permitted in any zoning district by law, but they still have to follow setbacks and building standard requirements. It's not, they can develop how they choose, and then that would be, administrative function. Site plan and building approvals unless they need a variance.
What's the dimensions of the property?
It's 105 feet wide by 403 feet long.
Is it my understanding, looking at this, that there's 25-foot building setback on one side and 15 on the other?
Yes, there's a larger setback to the residential than to the city's park sort of open space area there. So yeah.
So it leaves just over 60 feet of buildable space?
Correct, yeah. So they have 65 feet in width. Yeah, the 40 of it is setbacks.
And if they wanted to have a bigger space, they would need to apply for a setback waiver variance, and that would be a discretionary item.
Their setback waivers wouldn't be permitted. The property is too large, so we only do setback waivers on the small lots here in town that are less than 5,250 square feet. Their opportunity to modify their setbacks would have been on the plat, but they did not. And we wouldn't necessarily have supported it given its proximity to residential.
So is there anything that they would have to do to Old Highway 20 to try to help that road some? That's already a headache as it is.
No, so that's very unlikely, just given. So it's a county road one, so they'll need a county driveway permit, I believe. There is an access there. If it gets modified, they might need a driveway permit from the county. But for us, in order to do a traffic impact analysis, you need 2,000 trips. which is pretty high. I mean, a bunch. The county, you know, they have, I think they have the same standard. They might have lowered theirs a little bit, but it's still, you know, development on 1 acre, very likely almost never was going to trigger a TIA.
I did just want to say something. I joined the Planning and Zoning Commission several years ago because they tried to build behind my house. I'm also in Bell Farms area. And I was able to get 50 people of my neighbors to sign a petition and get them from building behind my house, even though they tried 4 times. And they were not a church. So they were also petitioned against, but they were not a church. So I just want to be clear about that. And also they handled it really well. The other company, even though they had to sit and listen to, one time we had 100 people in here speaking against them. Long night. And so they handled that defeat really well and gracefully. So I just want to say that.
So there's an option to approve with conditions. What conditions are we talking about here?
That's, I can't really think on the top of my head. I mean, it's there, but the condition would usually be something related to the plat.
At this point, we're the only ones that can ask questions. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming down to like maybe like the existing plat notes, modifying those, but it'd be really limited. I mean, like, I can't think of anything right now. Like, what would be a condition that wouldn't necessarily get into the zoning and the use of the property?
Yeah, but this discussion is not for the zoning and use of it, right? So this is pretty much approving the plat from the surveyor that this is the bounds of the property, right? And then the setbacks for it.
Yeah,
right.
so
And then that is a part of the entire process where they would come back in other rounds for the next stages to get to their end goal, right?
yeah, so the rest of it's administrative. So stuff like conditions, if you recall, like maybe like on the New Haven preliminary plat, we had conditions related to the wastewater easements, and so like they're planning a joint use access easement as part of their access, but you know there really aren't any other easements on the property. There's a city already pre-existing city wastewater easement across the front. I mean, those are kind of where the conditions might come in, is if you wanted to see another easement or something, which I don't really see one on there, but
Yeah. What's the guideline on driveways and that distance between existing feeder points?
yeah. So again, it's a county road, so it's their requirements. But within already existing access, they have to provide access to every property. I mean, they can't necessarily say like, "Oh, sorry, you're too close to another intersection. You just can never get in your property." Like, they have to provide access, even if it is a non-standard access approach. But there is one there that already exists. It may not. I don't believe it meets the fire code requirements in its width, so it should be modified. And part of it is going to help provide access to the city's property in the back there. So as we heard in the beginning, if the city wanted to amenitize that park area, it helps to already have that driveway created.
The driveway is on the east side of the property.
Yes. Yeah, it's a tiny print, but you can see there's a dash line, which looks like there is also their setback line, but it's labeled as a JAE or joint access easement.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
How many parking spaces are going to be able to be fit on there with the easement, with all the waivers and such?
Yeah, so that's parking is related to the number of seats in their assembly area or the size of the building, whichever one's greater. And apologize, I can't remember off the top of my head. I know a lot of our codes, but that's the one I can't remember what it is. But that limits people all the time on their building sizes, because they might want to put a larger building, but then larger building needs more parking, and then they can't fit the parking on the property, so then they have to shrink their building. So it's sort of this relationship between how much you can develop as you're building, and then how much space you need for your parking, and then how much space you need for detention, how required amounts of open space. So their site plan would work all that, and it's sort of, if you increase one area, you have to shrink somewhere else, and sometimes places can't be shrunk. So.
Okay. Also, are there city laws against soliciting?
No. Vendors are supposed to have permits. So if you do have someone come into your house to, as a solicitor who's providing a good or a service, you can ask them if they have a city permit. Our police can enforce that, but we don't have any, requirement or regulation that says it's not permitted. So HOAs can do it. Again, HOAs have, special powers more than cities do to regulate, the areas within their subdivision. So you'll see it when you go into some of them and say no soliciting, but I think we all know that those aren't always adhered to.
Are there subdivisions that have that in Manor?
Yeah, I think Shadow Glen.
Shadow Glen.
I feel like Bell Farms has one.
Bell Farms has one?
I feel like I've seen it over there.
We have any more questions, commissioners?
So for this shared drive, what's the requirements of that actual drive? That's going to be a public drive?
Yeah, so usually there'd be the maintenance within it, which is probably on them. It hasn't been approved. I mean, it's not, I don't have a document for that yet. We'd have the survey for what it would be. But yeah, it would be public. I mean, that's the whole point of a joint access easement, is that both property owners benefit. And, with one of them being the city, then it would be public for access to the other areas of the
just
park.
My dad in 15 feet is pretty narrow for an actual drive. That's two-way, right? It's not going to be a one lane.
So the 15 feet is what's on their property. The remainder of it is on that strip between their lot and then that adjacent property, which is lot 8B, it looks like. So there's a really narrow strip that is owned by the city. And they would be, I think it's actually going to be a 30-foot drive
Okay. And that would be a joint shared with the next property also. That's that other 15 feet is actually all city.
The adjacent property, again, depending on how the easement's worded, may or may not be able to connect to it. Because if it's something that, maintenance is on the church's responsibility, if other people start connecting to it and using it, it all comes down to basically how the easement is worded. Because sometimes they are pretty open. If you look at the like the Manor Crossing development, they have a lot of shared driveways that go through that all the properties connect to, and then the property owners association maintains it. And other times they are limited to just, hey, we're two property owners, we're agreeing to share this access, this is our access for us too, and other people can't use that. So like I said, it comes down to how that easement is worded and approved.
That's administratively.
That would be the city council, who typically approves easements on their consent agenda, but that would be a city council approval.
However, if we have recommendations for the city council, we're able to pass those along via email before the meeting.
Yeah, just you can let me know if there's concerns related to providing a joint access on the city's property for this one.
All right, commissioners, do we have any more questions? All right, last thing I have, I'm like Commissioner Leonard. I got on this planning and zoning because I've lived here all my life. I've actually grew up in the church that's probably about half a mile down the street from you guys at St. Joseph's, and there's a reason that they moved to the other side, because Old Highway 20 is a parking lot. And I'm a big person on, I hope your church grows, and I think if it grows, you're gonna run into some problems because you're gonna run out of room real quick. So I would hate for you to see you build something and then have to move real quick, and our neighbors here are now dealing with that again. That's just my 2 cents. Commissioners, do we have anything else?
Last thing from me. I got you first. I think it's unfortunate hearing everyone during the public hearing. I think it's very unfortunate that there was a resident that stated that their builder, whoever they bought the home from, stated that there would be no construction or no development, and that was the location, and that was the reason why, or one of the reasons why, that they built there. To see years, passed, and whatever that the builder told them wasn't accurate. Also, being what the chair stated on Highway 20, this is a county road that we've been having to continuously discuss how, as a city, we can work with the county to ensure that they prioritize construction, renovation, expansion of utilities or roadways to help the continuous growth in the city along this route. And I do want to put on the docket again that we need to have some type of strategic, not more of a comprehensive plan, but a strategic plan that means more near term on how we can coordinate and influence prioritization of Highway 20 faster than what it is now. Also, working with the prioritizing on TxDOT on some of the state roads, because we have many people that come, people like you, and I understand as a resident too, of the major construction of how it takes 30 minutes to get outside of my subdivision, or it's going to be an accident on 290. So I hurry up and just go. And as a person on this board and commission, I really don't have that power to say yes or no or vote on things. And people leave out of here having less faith in us as a governing body to help y'all out and to really be a voice of the city. And so I want to take this time to throw that out to y'all so that, you're not defeated as we walk out of here. Either way, opposition or for anything, but that we're all on the same team to get the issues that everyone talked about addressed as a city whole. And I'll leave that out.
He took a lot of the words out of my mouth, but I am sympathetic with both sides, saying that as a resident and a homeowner, if I was told that nothing was going to be built behind my house, and I know those homes sold for more because they have that private area, and I am sympathetic to someone who wants to build on their own land, something that they want to put on their own land, and it's just an unfortunate situation and an unfortunate dilemma caused by neither side sitting here today, in reality caused by someone who, if someone told you that they didn't have the power to do that. So I guess that's all I wanted to say on the topic. But we all do care, and we're here because we care, and we're made up of the residents of Manor, and so I am happy to help you out. That's it.
All right, do I got a motion for agenda item number 7?
I move that we approve motion number 7 for the subdivision short form final plat for the City of Refuge Church of God in Christ, located at 1 for lot 1 acre, more or less, being located on 13114 Old Highway 20, Manor, Texas.
I second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Neela, a second by Commissioner Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 8, considering discussion and possible action on final plat for the Las Entradas South section Ford subdivision 2, lots on 13.22 acres, more or less, and being located near the intersection of Greg Maynor Road and West Eagleston Street, Manor, Texas.
Sure. So this is a 2-lot subdivision. It was approved by our engineers, so we're recommending approval for this one. I don't know if you're familiar, if you've been over there, like the new Eggleston that was extended from where it used to terminate over to the newly built Greg Maynard. That's where this property is located. One lot is zoned multifamily, the larger lot, lot 1, and lot 2 is zoned C1 light commercial. There is an approved site plan for the multifamily portion of it for a 216 unit multifamily project, and then there is a commercial user that's looking at the lot 2 there to develop that one. And yeah, so if you have any questions, happy to answer them. There's a representative here if you wanted to speak with her.
I'm trying to get a idea of where this is.
So if you, again, like the new section of Greg Maynor, like if you head south of it on 290 between, so you go south of Riata before you get, like over by the Lions Club. This is across the street from Lions Club.
Got you. That's all. No, I know where. Commissioner, just to let you know, we do have Catherine here for any questions that we have for her.
This one seems pretty straightforward, right? There's not really any variance from the last time we saw you guys. It's just a formality at this point, right? Yeah. So I would motion to approve agenda item number 8.
I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Commissioner Terry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 9, consideration and discussion and possible action on a setback waiver for lot 10, block 19, town of Manor, to permit a 20-foot front setback, 10-foot rear setback, and a 5-foot side setback.
Sure. So this property, I mean, you've seen these before. It's a standard setback waiver. It's a corner lot. So when it says side setback, that's the side to the adjacent parcel, not the street side. Street side is 15 feet, and that's unchangeable. So that's not being modified there. They're set back to South San Marcos. But this is a typical setback waiver to permit the applicant or to make it feasible for the applicant to construct a new single family home on the property that meets the city's minimum dwelling unit sizes and architectural requirements without variances that have to go to the Board of Adjustment.
This is the one that's on East Cary Manor, and oh my God, I know the lady that lives there. I don't know what the street name is.
Yeah, South San Marcos. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We have any questions, commissioners? All right. Do I got a motion?
I move to approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Vice Chair Commissioner Chavis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I have a motion to adjourn this meeting at 8:36.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion by Commissioner Chavis. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Neela. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.